Hey, eighth grade, it's Mrs. Crosswhite. I'm here with your lesson for this week. Now, when we do these, you want to make sure you go through the Google slide presentation pretty carefully before you get to the video part. The video part is where I show you what you're going to be doing. So, for this assignment, you're going to need your sketchbook. Now, in your sketchbook, you want to make sure you're titling everything so that way when we come back, again, we still have it there. So for this, we're making Zentangles. You're going to title the top of your page Zentangle Practice, and you're going to make 6 squares on your paper. If you want to know about how big the squares should be, they should be about the size of a Post-it note. No bigger, no smaller. Just around that size. You have 6 squares. So we're going to make 6 Zentangle patterns. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. Each square is going to have a different pattern. What I'd like for you to do is, for squares 1 through 3, copy some of the patterns that are in this presentation. So as you go through the slides, you'll see there are some step-by-step ones. Just use those to kind of get you started. The steps usually are done in one color first, and then they keep going. So those first 3, copy the ones you have. For the last 3, I want you to actually make your own designs, so your own patterns. Zentangles are meant to be repetitive patterns that people use as doodles to kind of get into a mindful, meditative state. So I know many of you have thought about being mindful when we actually reflect on how we're thinking and what we're doing. Zentangles are meant to put you in a relaxing kind of state, like meditating, to where you're doing the same thing over and over. So if you're somebody, for some example, there's actually even coloring books that help people relax, things like that. So these are meant to not be representational. They're not meant to look like anything necessarily. They don't need to look realistic. They don't even need to look like necessarily objects. So I started mine off with those bumpy lines, and then I'm going through and just making black circles in each one. And as I go through, I can start thinking about other things I can add to these patterns. Even something as simple as lines. So for Zentangles, the important thing is repetition, line, and shape. So I'm going to go ahead and keep going through to finish this square of a pattern. And again, this is my own pattern. So each time you do one of these, for 4, 5, and 6, they should be your own patterns, so your own design. Try not to use somebody else's. And when you finish one up, you go on to the next one. So that was my first pattern, and then I'll go on to the next one. I'm going to do one more with you, and then I'm going to explain what you need to be handing in, so that way we're not spending too much time just watching me draw. So for my next one, sometimes some people work a little bit differently. Some people like to work really small at first. Some people like to start with big spaces and break them up. So for this one, I'm actually thinking about doing something symmetrical. So I'm going to start off with something in the center, and then a pattern that goes on the outside. Now, again, remember, Zentangles are really meant to be something you can do to kind of relax and make art at the same time. There's a lot of people who actually will do Zentangles on Post-its and put them all over their sketchbooks, in their houses, things like that, and even assemble them into bigger Zentangles. So these little patterns are what create one big Zentangle. And depending how thin your Sharpie is, you can actually get, or a pen for that matter, you can get pretty detailed. I tell a lot of people not to use a pencil because this isn't about going back and fixing anything. This is about doing a doodle, the same thing over and over to kind of relax yourself and give yourself and your brain some kind of quiet time to think about it that way, which I think we can all sometimes kind of use. So as I keep going, I'm just kind of building up my pattern. Now, what you are going to do is, like I said, you go ahead and copy the first 3 from the presentation. Or if you want, I've linked some videos to the end and you can copy from those. So that's for 1 through 3. And then for 4, 5, and 6, I want you to make up your own patterns. Again, this should all be on one page in your sketchbook. If by chance you do not have your sketchbook with you, it needs to be done on a blank piece of paper. Your sketchbooks were all sent home before we all had to leave, so you should have it. And again, remember to title these so when we come back, we have them. Now, what you are going to do is when you are done with your Zentangle practice this week, you're going to take a photograph of this page. When you take the photograph, you can do this a couple ways. You can use a tablet, phone, and go ahead and upload it to your Google Drive. Or if you have to, most cameras or most computers have webcams. If you have to, pick it up, put it in front of the webcam, take a picture. You have to attach the picture to the Google assignment, to the assignment in Google Classroom. If you're having trouble doing that and it's Saturday when it's due, you can email it to me. I will accept it in email format for the first couple weeks. But as time goes on, I'm going to expect you to hand things in attached to the assignment so I'm not sifting through dozens of emails every week looking for pictures. So make sure at some point you start attaching them. I'm going to link a document to show you how to do that later this week. If you have any questions, remember, our check-in times on Google Hangout are optional. They are not required instruction. It's just for you to talk to me if you have a question or if something isn't quite working or you can't access information. All right? I hope to see your Zentangle soon, and I hope you guys are having a good week. See you next week.